Hello everybody and welcome to another talk. This week we have a much smaller ensemble. We have a duo between me and a wonderful double bass player from Vienna. His name is Dominik Wagner. Thank you so much for joining us. And maybe at the beginning we can shortly speak about why we chose the piece, and maybe you can even say a couple of words about the sonata by Montag.
Well, yeah, first of all, thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for coming. Come on.
I really enjoyed it. Yeah, why did we choose Vilmos Montag Sonata? Well, I suggested it because it's one of my favorite sonatas for double bass and piano. Because I think it just, I will tell a bit about how this piece was composed, just so it makes more sense.
Yeah,
Vilmos Montag is a Hungarian composer and violinist. Then later in his life he went to Sweden and lived the rest of his life there. And his brother is Lajos Montag. Lajos Montag is one of the most important double bassists of the 20th century, especially in Hungary, but actually in the whole world. Was a world-famous virtuoso and also teacher. And for him, Vilmos composed this sonata. So probably he also knew the bass quite well.
Vilmos was not a double bass.
Vilmos was a violinist, but his brother Lajos, he was the bassist, and so because of him he probably knew the instrument quite well. He actually uses something that's some composers nowadays use. It's composed for bass in solo tuning, but the lowest string is one note lower, so they have an even bigger range since it's in E minor with the low E all the time, and he really likes to use that. He really likes to go from all the way from the lowest string a lot to the highest registers. He really knows perfectly how to combine how to make good dialogue between the piano and how to get that's why I love it, because he knows how to get the craziest emotions out of the piece. Like I don't think there are many pieces where I get as emotional as with this sonata.
You played a certain amount of pieces that were originally written for cello, if I remember well.
Yes,
Did you?
Yes.
I think if I remember well, you played even like the Brahms clarinet trio.
Yes, exactly.
How is playing that sort of repertoire? So taking works that were written for cello, playing it on the double bass, especially in the chamber music sort of environment. So how is it playing that with the piano?
Well, I think it always depends. When I do that, I need to be really careful with how I choose the piece. It needs to be, for me, the most important thing, the priority number one is that the musical story, whatever it is, whatever I feel it's supposed to be, does not get damaged because of the transcription. So I would not play Tchaikovsky violin concerto on the bass, for example, even though maybe it would be possible technically, I don't know, but it would definitely not get the right character.
Yeah.
And so first, I'm very careful when I choose what really fits the character of the bass when I do an arrangement, and then I just try to do what I always do when I play. I try to understand in my personal way what the composer is trying to say and try to make that sound. So I mean it's not that different to other repertoire, just often in which area I play is different. For chamber music, for example, besides sonatas, like if you look at the bigger constellations like quintet and stuff like that, then the bass always has only the bass function, like the low notes. And if I play like a Brahms clarinet trio, obviously it's a whole different story. It goes in completely different registers.
What I specifically meant with my question was that it was clear for me when working on this piece that the composer knew exactly how the double bass worked. When writing also for the piano. Because the sort of texture you have there is in such a way made that it suits so well the sort of sounds that double bass can make. So that was a bit my question. If you had difficulties playing, for example, Brahms, which was thought for the cello.
No, not at all, because I'm not that far away sound-wise, and also I play in the same register sounding. Like sometimes I go one octave lower if I feel like it's really fitting the moment, but most of the time I just play the same notes that you play on the cello anyways. So that's no issue.
And I was thinking about something. We were chatting yesterday about like different sorts of soloists nowadays. Can a double bass player be a soloist?
Well,
here you are, right?
It happened again and again, historically speaking. In the classical period, we had a lot of double bass soloists, a lot of successful ones. There would have even been, there was a Haydn double bass concerto. Unfortunately, we don't have the sheet music anymore nowadays. really unfortunately.
Yeah.
But in the romantic period, we had, for example, Giovanni Bottesini, and also earlier we had Dragonetti, who played the Beethoven cello sonatas with Beethoven on the piano. And Beethoven, you can read in letters, was incredibly happy and impressed with how that worked. There are even records where they played together the second sonata in concerts. And yeah, nowadays, we had a few people. We had, it's not a lot of people that make a career you could compare to a big violinist or cellist, but now and then some people make it, and I don't know.
What's the recipe? Do you think about like commissioning new works, or only more about transposing things or transcribing things?
Well, I think there are two things that I also told you yesterday that are really clearly separate. There's the whole career aspect, and then there's the art, which are two completely different things. Career has to do with what you can sell, and the bass is obviously one of the worst instruments for that, because you don't have the famous repertoire. Not everybody knows it. Most people, if you tell them, oh, I will play a solo recital with the double bass, they will be like, oh my God, I don't want to listen, because they got no idea, because they never heard it before. Yeah. So that aspect, that's a difficult one. Art-wise, there's so many possibilities. If you think about, that you have the sonatas, where you have some original pieces, but then you can do the arrangements like Schubert, Bach sonatas, all kinds of stuff, Brahms sonatas, and so that's a transcription part. Then obviously the original literature we can explore more and more. Often, like this Montag sonata, for example, it's not being played so often by bassists.
Really,
I don't know why. It's a wonderful piece, and or Hindemith sonata, even that's not played so often, which is so weird, because Hindemith, it's even a famous composer, and it's a really good piece. Also,
it's also a pity, because we were talking about it yesterday, how difficult it is for so-called unconventional ensembles to actually get a chance to perform this sort of pieces. So if I'm thinking, if I would be a double bass player and my main priority would be, as we spoke yesterday, to find a job, why would I sort of lose my time and learn and try to perform Hindemith sonata or whatever Montag? Which is such a pity.
Yeah, that's unfortunately, it's like your goal is to get a job in the orchestra, and the solo stuff, that's just like meh. Although it's changing a lot lately. There are more and more bassists who play really well as soloists. If you look at the big competitions nowadays, the level is astounding, and even a lot of the orchestra bassists still play a lot of solo. For example, in HR Symphony Orchestra, there's Boguslav Furtok, and he just recently recorded a solo CD with the HR Symphony Orchestra, which is, I think, absolutely incredible. And he still plays incredible. Yeah. And so it's really changing. People are seeing putting a bigger priority on it, and bassists, but also concert organizers start to accept it more and more slowly, because it will be a slow process, for the bass to find its place in the classical market. Market, that sounds like so uncomfortable to say when you're talking about art, but that's how it is in the end. So I think we just need to push, many bassists need to push, so that one day it will be acknowledged as something normal. Cello 100 years ago was also not the big solo instruments, and nowadays there are maybe even more young successful cellists than violinists.
Still, in this process, probably artistic standards should be very high. Obviously,
my personal priority always is, how can I make something that's actually worth hearing or listening? If I play that's what I always like. If I arrange something, if I learn a new repertoire, if I explore new constellations, that's what I often do. For example, I made a duo constellation with Georg Breinschmidt. It's one jazz bass and one classical bass together.
That's so cool.
And then I play a lot of clarinet trios, and it's like finding new constellations, finding new pieces, or just learning new repertoire that was already written. Always the priority number one is it worth for people to listen to this? Can I really say something with this? Can I really tell a story, express emotion, express feelings, something like that? And if that's not the case, then why should I even make a career? Because but that's my personal priority number one, and that's what I think should be the priority number one for everybody. What do I have to say musically? Maybe also as a person, but in this case, since I'm a musician, what do I have to say musically? How can I improve that? And then, yeah, the career aspect is a different story. It should, in the end, provide opportunities to express one's art. But it's not that you have great art and you will have a career, or you have a career and you have great art automatically. That's not always, so that's why I like to separate them.
Look, I think we have plenty of time nowadays. The pandemic won't go away very soon to think about ideas. In the meantime, I want to thank you for coming all the way from Vienna to play together. It was a wonderful experience.
For me too.
And see you next time. I mean, we have to find other sorts of constellations where the bass is there together with the other instruments, right?
Gladly.
Yeah. And thank you, everybody, for watching. And don't miss the premiere of the Montag Sonata for piano and double bass on Friday, 7 p.m. Facebook page. Thank you.